Hi Willow class and welcome to Monday's Learning Journey. Today's date is Monday the 18th of January and our learning question is, can I write my own traditional tale with a twist? So, this week we're going to have a go at writing our own versions of the story we've been doing lots and lots of work on. That's right, The Pea and the Princess. We're going to be authors this week and have a go every day at writing a part of the story. So by the end of the week, you have your very own version of your traditional tale with a twist, The Pea and the Princess. But don't worry, I'm going to help you along the way. Let's have a think, first of all, about what we need to include in our stories so that they're a traditional tale with a twist. Can we remember back at the very beginning, when we thought about what we already know about traditional tales? We know that they begin with once upon a time, and our characters often live happily ever after. Our story might be slightly different from this, because our version is from the Pea's perspective, but we could use once upon a time if we wanted to. There are often good and evil characters. Now, there definitely is a good character in our story, and that's the Pea, because the Pea helps the gardener, and the prince, of course. We don't have many evil characters, but we do know that the Queen is rather grumpy and a little bit moody with her son, the prince, at the beginning. We do have royalty. We've got the Queen, the prince, and the princesses. Magic helpers or objects, and animals that act like humans. Well, in our story, there aren't any animals that act like humans, but there certainly is a Pea who can talk and climb up 20 mattresses. So I suppose that is a little bit magic. Now we're going to use the story maps that we drew last week to help us remember each section of the story. And today we're just going to have a go at doing the opening to our stories. So we're going to think about the beginning, when the Pea is telling us how special he felt he was going to be one day as he grew on with his brothers and sisters in his lovely velvety and snuggly pod before being picked and taken to the palace kitchen and then suddenly taken away and put in a special box by the Queen. So we're just going to tell that part of the story today. Let's have a think about what we need to include when we're writing. We need capital letters. Capital letters we need for the beginning of our sentence and for names of people or particular places. So we need a capital letter for the Queen and the Prince. We need full stops at the end of our sentences, so when we've finished one idea, we're going to have a go at writing some fantastic adjectives to describe our characters and the setting, and also some adverbs like we looked at earlier last week. For example, quickly, loudly, or suddenly, to describe how something is happening in our story. We're going to be telling our story in the past tense too, so we need to make sure that we're writing in the past tense all the way through. We might need to check those endings have got ed on the end. So after we've finished writing today, you're going to help me to check against my success criteria to make sure that we've done all of these things, and you're going to do the same for your writing. I'm going to help you to get started on your writing today with some ideas of my own, but I really want to see your own independent and original writing for your take on the story. Okay, let's have a go at writing the opening together, and then you can go off and write your own. So I'm going to change the opening slightly for my story, and instead of saying many years ago, I'm going to write a long time ago. And we're talking from the Pea's perspective, so I'm going to write a long time ago. I was born in the palace allotment. Okay. Now, what could I talk about? I could talk about how the Pea felt that he was going to be important someday. So, when I was snuggled in my, how could I describe the pod? In my cosy green pod, I knew that someday I would be very important. Okay, let me read back what I've written so far. A long time ago I was born in the palace allotment. When I was snuggled in my cosy green pod, I knew that someday I would be very important. I might want to add in a little bit here to talk about where he was growing between. I was born in the palace allotment next to rows and rows of cabbages and beetroot. When I was snuggled in my cosy green pod, I knew that someday I would be important. I'm going to keep going. What could I say? The day came when I was picked to go to the palace kitchen. I could use the word suddenly. Suddenly, I felt a hand pull me out and put me in a small box. Okay, let's have a read back so far and see what we've got. A long time ago, I was born in the palace allotment next to rows and rows of cabbages and beetroot. When I was snuggled in my cosy green pod, I knew that someday I would be very important. I might change when to as. That sounds better. As I was snuggled in my cosy green pod, I knew that someday I would be very important. The day came when I was picked to go to the palace kitchen. Suddenly, I felt a hand pull me out and put me in a small box. Okay, let's have a check of our success criteria. Have I remembered capital letters? Yes, I've got capital letters at the start of my sentences. Brilliant. And 4 places like the palace allotment. Okay, let's check back. Have I got 4 stops? Oh, yes, I've got a full stop there. That's the end of one idea. Full stop there, that's the end of another idea. And a full stop there, end of my final idea. Okay, so I've got 3 sentences. Have I got any adjectives? Oh, can you spot any adjectives? Let me see. Oh, yes. I can see I've got cosy and green to describe my pod. And I think that one day I would be very important. Okay. Oh, and small box to describe the box. Have I got any adverbs? Yes. I think I've got one down here. Suddenly. Brilliant. And my last one. Let me check. Does it sound like I'm talking in the past? A long time ago I was born in the palace allotment next to rows and rows of cabbages and beetroot. As I was snuggled in my cosy pod, there's my ED, I knew that someday I would be very important. The day came when I was picked to go to the palace kitchen. Suddenly I felt a hand pull me out and put me in a small box. Brilliant. Definitely sounds like it's in the past tense. Okay, over to you now. Remember, the start of your story does not have to sound exactly the same as mine. In fact, I'd rather it sounded a little bit different. Otherwise, I'd get a bit bored reading the same story over and over. So, see if you can come up with some of your own sentences and ideas for what happens at the start of our story. Don't forget to take a photograph and upload it to Class Dojo. Well done, everybody.